anybody want to drive?
Scott?
Let's just tag team it.
All right, I'll start, and Stefan can provide technical detail. So for two releases, we've given access to kind of demo-like Ubuntu desktop images that would run on EC2 and are available for download for UC. And I think that they use FreeNX.
Yeah, they use. Unless you change something, but it was FreeNX.
Okay. I was thinking it wanted to use the other one. What's the other one?
X2Go, but
no, not that
because
one. I meant the server.
Oh, Nedex.
Nedex.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it says in PPA something both. So maybe it's Nedex.
It's either FreeNX or the Nedex. And so we have a server in there, and you can use a client and connect to it. They're basically there. They're not guaranteed to be supported, and we just kind of made them available. I think there's a general interest. A lot of people want to be able to log into a desktop remotely, and so that's why we're here. Just to see if we could basically do something, put something together that would be supportable and could be done as an official Ubuntu release.
Do we need to go over motivations for doing so, or use cases, or are we taking those as given?
I think they're given, don't they? We just know people want to log in and want a decent, fast connection. No lag.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be semi-personal image? Sure.
It's the default basic. It's a basic Ubuntu install. I mean, it would become your personal, or you know, you could. If we have the technology, if we have a remote desktop system in place, you could then use that to install. You know, use that as an Ubuntu server on EC2, just as people might install the desktop and you know they choose to administer it because they like the UI, and so that it basically function networking.
I'm having a lot of trouble finding the copy document. What's it called?
I don't know if there's one.
Oh, okay.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask, I think we should discuss the use cases and motivation for doing it, because that's not the use case that
Your use case is demo.
Right.
I think it's a quite powerful demo. I think that the server admin thing is something people ask. Like lots of, especially new to Linux admins, want the UI, and on the desktop they have an option, or on the server install on the physical hardware, they have an option to install the local UI and log into it, right? And I think a lot of people probably do that, whether or not it's...
So the obvious one to satisfy Jerry's concern is a centralized approach, which is largely what you've done. And that's where you have a website you can go to and actually view your stuff. Now the trouble is that doesn't work particularly well with generally the cloud Amazon stuff. I mean, for example, the AWS trial, we're centralized around a website itself.
So my interest, this session, at least I was intending, is images on EC2. You can boot them, you can log in, they're full. I'm not doing shared hosting or anything. Again, obviously that's something that can be done, or an image repurposed too, right? But
my use case is the same use case I use Screen. I do all of my command line and development stuff on a remote machine. It's at my house, but it could be in the cloud just as easily. It's easy to do with lightweight. Screen's lightweight enough to do that over SSH and a protocol. The concept of doing that with a desktop has been, you could kind of do it with VNC if you've got quick enough access, but the ability to have a remote desktop in the cloud that's running my applications that I connect and disconnect to, that's running the development release, and when it craps out, I just reinstall it and remount my persistent user data. I'm I'm actually going to do that this cycle. I'm going to give it a shot, and we'll see if it takes or not. But I'm going to try the desktop and the cloud. I'm committed to do that and figure out what's wrong with it. I suspect the bandwidth is going to be an issue, getting to and from and having a reliable enough connection.
No,
But
not be an issue.
it's not going to be an issue.
No, because you can connect an NX with something like a 56K modem.
Okay.
It's quite with NX. Yeah, don't try that with VNC or
No. No.
Even RDP isn't going to work well, but NX for that is quite much.
I don't think we're ready to since I don't think we'd be ready to roll that out as something we recommend people doing, but if we get a few developers trying it out and figure out what the pitfalls are, maybe after the cycle I'll come back and say, yeah, I've got a powerful machine here with 4 cores and 8 gigs, I'm going to use this instead. On the other hand, if I were on Scott's EPC, there's something like that with an Atom processor and a gig of RAM, it would be nice to have physical access or remote access to a system that had 4 or 8 CPUs and plenty of memory. If what I was doing at that moment was something memory intensive, and it's as quick as a reboot, your desktop machine can go from a small one to a big one.
Okay, so we're definitely talking about 2 very separate projects here. So one a remote desktop and one a web demo, or that's
Well,
And
these are
web
things that a desktop in the cloud would enable.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't, it's
And
really
for-
not separate projects.
And for 2 use cases, but okay,
For
if
2
you
use
go,
cases.
if you go for the remote desktop, you're going to probably want remote access, be able to install software and kind of stuff. Whereas for remote demo, what you want is as many people as possible who can try it
Yeah.
at a given time. So then shared server with less rights for the user, but more people trying it at the same time is a better option.
Yeah.
It's still kind of the same image, so except that one is like started one per user, and the other is you need to actually do some user management and have more than one user. That's what we did for Linux.
Yeah.
And so, Gary, the reason I think they're the same thing is if we were to do it for a trial, like we did AW's trial, we don't need multiple users per machine, we just have a full machine to a user. There's one user and they can activate calls. They don't need the other stuff there. So it's the same thing that a person would do if they fired it up and they wanted to administer it or use it like custom.
Okay.
So, building off of your demo, we talked a little bit in the previous session about AWS trial, which was we spent most of the time talking server and deferred the desktop discussion to here.
Yeah.
But now that we're here talking about desktop discussion, when people have applications that run on a desktop application, graphical applications, partner applications, whatever it is, this again becomes a conduit for someone to say, I wrote this application, here's how you try it out. By the way, it's an Ubuntu desktop, which is nice for the screenshots and such.
Mm-hmm.
But their app is, the apps that require graphical interfaces, which we can't do on server stuff, we now have a conduit for Ubuntu in the cloud demoing third-party or partner applications as well.
Yeah.
So not trying to push. So not trying to push NX in particular, but something that's nice with it is that you can do single application export. So you can quite easily, I did it quite often at the office, like I don't want to open VPN and stuff, so I just start NX in the application extract from our application server at the office is Terminator.
Right.
And that's because we have sometimes firewalls cutting us from message access. Or you can start like DRP or whatever, just like extract from single application and it works fine. So it might be useful as well in the demoing a specific application.
Yeah. I propose it also as a replacement for Gavi. We could fire up a single desktop in the cloud, open one gedit, and everybody edit that.
Perfect thing for podcasting.
So you get multiple.
No, you don't.
You can't get multiple connectors.
NX supports it, and then it's going to start a VNC server, and then NX start a VNC clients and localhost. You don't one usually, but it's supported.
Bad joke.
No, but it is something that would then be out there, and it's nice. I mean, to be able to show somebody to share that remote desktop. I guess you could still share it, like you said, you could share your remote desktop with VNC, but you can't just through. Okay. I really don't think, I mean, I think whether or not we would have them and if they're available, I think usages would pop up. It wouldn't surprise me if people in general launched them instead of launching the server image. I mean, that it became more popular for at least a pair or a set of people, that they would use the server image or that rather than the server image for things.
Would that be a bad thing?
No, I just think there's a
No, I'm serious. Do we? Is that a bad thing? Is that a good? Is that a better method for people accessing it, or do we further marginalize the Ubuntu server?
Guessing it's a different target anyway, so
Yes.
it's not going to be the same users, so that's fine.
Yeah.
That's more users trying to create Ubuntu server. So
I mean, traditionally, there's a lot of people who need to run an Apache server and they want GNOME, so they install Ubuntu desktop.
pretty much everyone who's used to using Windows,
Yeah.
yeah.
and because that's how they're used to doing things, so they can find that.
So the more standard use case, at least I have in my head, this is my first experience of Ubuntu. I've heard about this thing. I don't want to download a CD. I just want to see it, play with it for an hour, and then decide what I want to do next. Either download the ISO or buy the machine. So this is just, let me press a button, give me my details, and let me see it. A vanilla version of Ubuntu desktop. I'm not going to do anything with it except, open the application that I can see. Excuse me. So for the marketing side, we would be very keen to invest in the same work that we did essentially on the AWS trial in terms of the building the website, doing CSS value for that, and helping with the login process and trying to make that as simple as possible. If we want to bring it forward and promote it as widely as we can.
Okay, so I think generally accept that there's use cases, there's things we would like to have, there's the demand for it. I think that it all comes down to we can't really do it.
That's a
Because
good thing then, is it?
the option, the thing that everybody thinks, man, that just works and that's slick and yeah, that would really impress people is NX. And it's not free. And so at very least, we can't put it in an official image in something because it's not a main, it will never be a main.
But the FreeNX server could get similar characteristics.
Okay.
The only issue we have is the client itself, which is free.
So
The free one will be
All right.
cost.
let's get this recorded correctly. So FreeNX, the server.
Let's see, I have the server here too.
What's the license on FreeNX, the server?
Yeah, but yeah, the server
Huh?
box, it doesn't drop all the time.
GPL.
Let me check.
Yeah.
FreeNX server is GPL
This
Yeah.
is separable.
and could be in main.
Yeah.
Is it in Universe right now?
No, it is currently in a PPA.
Okay.
But it's been the same PPA for a long time. And we are using the same version for a long time, so we know it works. We just need proper review. Maybe the packaging is okay, I guess.
Security.
Security review, that's yeah.
SSH requires password authentication,
Uh,
right?
Or
no, it doesn't.
It requires
User to have a
key.
password.
It requires key login for the NX user. Then can either SSH to localhost to again allow login authentication only for localhost, which is possible.
And uses exporting over SSH or something?
No, you
No.
SSH in as the NX user, and the NX
Yeah.
user becomes your user.
Yeah, but it becomes your user by SSHing to
Okay, I
localhost.
didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can allow that to easily or change the authentication method to using SU and just switch it.
Oh, well then that's.
So the default, the key for the NX user the same in the default package?
Yeah, everyone is using the same
So
private
you
key.
could get into anyone's machine running NX as the NX user unless they change their key.
Yeah, except that's the only thing you're going to get in an NX shell.
Oh,
And everyone gets the same NX shell on any
Right.
NX deployment. But Yes. So you depend on the security of DNX shell, and that's why you need to go through a
And what is the
review.
client?
Yeah.
Can you check the client?
Client.
So let's talk about the client. So the problem then is the FreeNX client, and that's the Java-based,
The no machine NX client.
the no machine NX
So
client.
this specific client is the one that works the best. I guess everyone would probably agree on that.
You didn't.
Now we have a set of other clients that
So it's by
exist.
far the best, but not free, but non-free.
Right. Now we have something called OpenNX. I was checking this morning. It doesn't seem to be extremely well maintained. It's not. It's packaged in the same PP as we use for FreeNXT, for the FreeNX server. And it's a clone of the no machine client, as in, except that it's completely open source. And they have a Windows port. I didn't see a Mac port, but maybe there is one. So if we can make that thing to work, and we can just, the Java applet, as far as I know, is open as in public domain or something. The what's not is the .zip files containing the client itself. So we could probably reuse the same applet, but replace it with OpenNX if we can make it to work. Then the client becomes open source.
It needs X.
Yeah, it's
Google speed on it.
That's the server.
Yeah.
And then
There's no client on it.
No, there is no client.
The server
But
I mean, I just
So I'm trying to capture this here. What's so there are alternatives then
Yeah.
to no machine NX.
It's just that so far it's more difficult to use them than
Right.
to use
And the
corporate
overall-
trade. So the easiest way so far was to just binary one, it works. But
the overall experience.
we could invest a bit of time and try to make
What's
one of.
this, do you know what the state of Expro is?
Hmm?
Expro,
Mm.
do you know what the state
I don't
is?
know.
Expro was a kind of similar project, except for it's an X server replacement. I know I use it sometimes. And it lets you export single windows. To do the desktop, you have to export your whole desktop window. But it does the compression and stuff as well. It's another one to look at. I don't know what its current state is. It's XPRA. You just, it's regular tunneling over SSH. It doesn't have as much setup as
So is no machine NX a no-go, or do we have to make a decision? It's up to...
It really depends. The server part can be completely open source.
Yeah.
So as far as the image is concerned, it's fine. The question then is the client.
Well, yeah, and ideally you would.
I mean, I have an NX client on my cell phone that works. I can log in. It's completely open source.
There is a huge no machine logo as well, and using it like kind of
Oh, this one can be replaced. It's just
Probably not.
sure it can because it's part of FreeNX. It's the NX logo, not the no machine logo. Even though it's the same, but you can replace it. And someone was saying that it shows no machine in the title. It's wrong. It shows NX. And you will go like so.
Yeah.
It's
The branding is very hard to remove on those things, yeah.
and if you take even the other attempts at making something similar like X2Go, it actually uses the exact same library and stuff that NX does because that one is open source. So everyone is using it.
So if you did, let's see, so if you did not want to, how could we get the user the commercial NX client if we were willing to do that? The easiest way.
Same thing we do for Ubuntu. You have a Java applet, then does it.
And the Java applet sends it there though. The Java applet is downloaded by the user and then where does the user end up doing the download from? Did that come from you or did that come from NX?
Or from NX, you can change that in Java.
Okay,
Usually from you because you want to control which version you have.
but we can't do it from us.
So
Depends what us mean.
Well, it wouldn't be sitting in the image ready to be distributed. I don't think.
No,
And usually-
right. This one you're not going to forget, but you will have the intro image that you distribute. This one is fine. Everything is open source on it. Then you can recommend users to use, I don't know, Remina, QTNX, or any of the other open source clients. And if you want to make a demo, something similar to what we did.
Brain dead easy, like the brain dead easy path is what Gary's interested in, is
Right.
what you want the Ubuntu
Yeah, but
experience to be.
Right, but in this case, that's I guess it's separate between like the actual server and the client part, like your
Well, I
website.
would have the server distribute the client part.
Oh,
Like they would open
Okay.
up the browser, go to a web page, and then they would start using their terminal.
okay. So to do that, you would need to make like something like OpenNX to work because it's already on the platform and everything, and be able to replace the .zip from the machine which are proprietary you can distribute by the equivalent of using.
Well, so the Java, so basically in the image, I would either, it would be possible to, from the image, have a web, the default web
It would have the
page.
exact same thing, except that downloading, you're not going to download in the machine by your client, you're going to download your client.
Oh, right, no, I know, what I'm saying is, but could I, if I wanted, if it were acceptable to do the no machine system, the no machine client, could I put in the image anything that would then, like, just redirect them to no machine, pull down the thing, and still have context to where it would come back to me?
Yeah, it's
Okay, so then at least
But the-
I don't contain anything in me.
right, yeah. What the Java client really does is that it starts a window, it detects what system you have, it gets the file name based on that, and then starts a window and back in your Java directory, and starts a bringer. So you just
Then
need
how does
to
the
set the
binary-
URL
Oh, okay.
from what it needs to download.
File or
and-
something?
Yeah, in the code itself,
And
in the HTML code.
How did it know where to connect back to?
It's also said, yeah, there is the NXS file that defines the session, and in there you have to.
And that gets pushed down. So
yeah,
we could do this.
Yeah, it's possible.
Based on what Dustin just pasted up there, it looks like it'd be fairly easy just to create your own client.
So I'm on the, I was on the page, or I'm on the page, I can move it back over, that discusses the license, and it's saying here that creating an OSS version is easy, no machine develops and releases under GPL all the tools required to create such a version.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that there are multiple attempts and they all suck.
And they, okay.
So calling it easy is,
Right.
yeah,
Too easy.
yes.
You've already been 20 copies.
Right.
And sorry, have you spoken about Spice at all?
No, I put it on the list there. Actually, for EC2, Spice isn't really an option, I don't think, because it requires the hypervisor to basically export the, yeah.
You need to patch KVM from it, yeah.
Well, yeah, we have to have,
And you can't really start KVM with it.
Correct, yeah.
Amazon would have to give us the Spice.
Because I'm not thinking in terms of performance, but that's the protocol that's actually open now. So that's what it's.
Right, and they, in their recent release, they have stuff that is JPEG encoding and to try to do better, high latency, low bandwidth.
Yeah. I mean, Spice was designed to send actually sensitive data to a thin client that is equipped with a discrete graphic card, so effectively offsets the graphic processing, particularly in video rendering, to the thin client. Instead, that was like for e-learning and things like that, for the video clients who are rendering the video on thin client rather than hogging the server with it. So you can have better density, but it doesn't do any more acceleration than that. The last time I measured it is RDP5 was actually faster.
Well, and it's largely, it's a high bandwidth, low latency solution. I mean, that's its target.
And no machine is planning on doing the same thing, except that we have no clue what the license is going to be for that part.
Right.
And X4 is supposed to like grab everything that's going to XV, compress somehow, send that separately, and do the rendering on the client part. So that's the same idea, except that somehow we have no clue what's going to happen to the licensing of that. And I would expect the world for that, really.
So as an Ubuntu thing, I would guess it's not really an option as something that is called Ubuntu to have basically go to it and go to this Ubuntu image and it basically tells you download a proprietary client and run it in the interface to me. I'm asking really, but I would expect the answer is no, that's not good.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's use FreeNX and
server
client. What's the client?
OpenNX.
OpenNX.
Yeah.
If you want something that's free and open source.
Right, but I wanted
As
to,
it
but to get it to the seamless.
So
You get it seamless. I want you to launch an instance or connect to your instance by going to the instance, right? And then it provides you with the download, and you didn't even know.
Right.
And that instance will be then suggesting you use the client.
And I think in the short term, if we want to do this, we've got to do it, like you said, with free software, and we do it with the suboptimal free software one.
I mean, short term, we can create the image that doesn't contain the website just in the blog.
Right.
Have it all the necessary components in the archive, so we don't need to pay from the PPA, so we can make it like an official image. And we can look like for the next cycle after that, trying to fix a client.
Yeah, and
I mean,
like
it might be just a matter of actually getting one of these clients in the archive, so someone actually starts taking care of it.
right. So I think, yeah, to stay true to the principles of Ubuntu, we need to do this all with free and open software. But I mean, I run Skype on my laptop. It's something I choose to do because none of the other.
But this would be coming. This
Well-
would be coming from basically a CD. I mean, this is an official distribution mechanism. Nothing in there is not in mainland, so.
Right, absolutely. If someone chooses to connect to it with the proprietary client
Oh,
to
it's
enhance their
fine.
user experience, they
Right.
can.
But
I can
but
use
you can't.
a Kiga
Right.
if I want to pull my hair out, or I can use Skype and
Right.
make a call.
The issue is that the CD didn't put up a big iPad and say, hey, use this. And if we had if the preferred thing was a web that's shoving this down your throat, that's basically an ad saying Skype's better than use it.
Okay,
So,
so
but as far as I know, we have like Remina. I don't know if you have heard of that client. It's a VNC, RDP, NX, and some other stuff client in Ubuntu. It's packaged, derived in the archive with Maverick. So it's still quite in development.
Vinegar?
No, Remina, it's this tool. So you can add servers, RDP, NX. They support quite a few protocols.
Okay. But it's just then it would invoke the NX client?
No, he's going to use the free libraries.
what do we think?
It's a reimplementation of NX. It's a bit sucky currently, but
Okay. But it's
if it works, we can just recommend to install this package. Package exists, they can install it. If they want something that works out of a web page, then for now, we'll just go with no machine.
So the proposal then, let me see if I can get this right. So from the image perspective, so create, which I know you're already doing some of, we create desktop images, images, 32 and 64-bit, I guess we did both, okay, images, with the FreeNX server, right?
Okay. Which may or may not have already happened once for Natty, I don't know if
Which probably means get FreeNX into archive, right?
Yes.
Right.
I'm going to put that as a separate action here. This is a little difficult.
Can I throw out one more idea? I
Yeah.
know DNC may be too slow, but there's something called Guacamole that is a proxy that basically sends VNC-like protocol, I think it is VNC, over to your web browser and then does VNC rendering in the browser.
See, the inherent problem with DNC is the way it says tiling, whereas NX doesn't have that limitation. Tiling can't deliver it can't deliver a good experience, particularly over a low bandwidth connection.
And it's looks like a fairly young project. But for some of these use cases, it's very attractive, right? Because you don't need to install anything. You just point your browser at some, URL that points to your instance, and then.
I mean, there's a VNC plugin as well into Firefox that could be used to do it. If we go towards the VNC, but I think the interface stays that the tiling is never.
I understand. I just wanted to mention it.
All right. Well, I got it in the minutes. I just looked it up and found the website. It's guacamole.sourceforge. VNC proxy. HTML5 plus Ajax viewer for VNC.
Do you know about handles authentication?
I have no idea. It is GPL.
The authentication.
Right now.
Can we? So the other part of the proposal then is to have the guest image supply the OpenNX client. Is that what the client's called, the package with OpenNX?
Yeah, it's not in archive yet, but yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, so get open.
Then it has Windows behind that class, you said.
Yeah,
I mean, so, but then we also have to create a downloader thing or a detection or.
I guess we need to check exactly.
You need the
Java code.
Java little thing.
Yeah, but
that's
I
not
seem to
like
remember
that's not like
I seem to remember that leaving, you can do any notification you want, it is mostly written or something. I seem to remember saying that in a few flags.
It's just an easy downloader.
So, if they actually did that in the code, well, we're fine to do it.
Which is not a thing, but we'd have to get a real license.
All right, so the action then is have image offer OpenNX client through via the web connection through the something like that to make sure that you have a way of getting the client.
Yeah.
And we'll go into this knowing that OpenNX is not the most performant solution, but if we can get this far in this cycle, and I don't know, we have John Q isn't here. Anyone else from services, maybe Forrest? I mean, we could potentially contact No Machine NX and
I think maybe John
okay.
should be the.
Approach them as a partner and say this is our idea, what you'd like to do. You know.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you don't need to. I'll pass it to John.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll put an action here then. Canonical services.
Yeah.
So I think basically we accept it's probably not blindingly simple and web demoable at the end of the cycle. And large scale
In a perfectly optimal performant manner, right? I mean, that's all we're looking at is having an optimal.
Not something that a Windows user would boot. A only Windows user would come to and think, oh my gosh, this is great, I want to use it. They'd be turned off because it would suck.
Yeah.
Presumably, if they're a Windows user, they're probably less averse to running a non-free software implementation.
Oh no, I know, but I'm just saying the overall clean, beautiful,
Yep.
start to finish thing that you're going to see is just going to suck, or it's going to drop its connection, or it's going to crash, and that's not what we would want to present because the client's not good enough to basically.
But there's three to think. I mean, there's the image that you want to share and what is going to be in there and what we recommend for the user using. So that's going to be completely open source. And there is what can we do if they want to make like demos on a website or something, where they can technically use the same Java plugin for that use.
Yeah.
And that's probably okay, and then gives an okay performance to the first user from Windows. Because someone who's going to deploy a new image in EC2 is probably going to be able to use that.
I mean, I suspect if Canonical goes to No Machine and asks them for a better client, they're probably going to point us to right here, which says, oh, you guys employ developers. We've given you all the libraries it takes to do this. We've given you 90%, so write the other 10%. So, I mean, maybe this spec should be, maybe it's next cycle, maybe the spec should be fix the NX clients that are already there or write a new one from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not my
yesterday, and supposedly QTNX, which doesn't work in Ubuntu properly, works perfectly fine on my cell phone. So I started an NX session for my cell phone, and it works fine, using a completely open source client.
So,
Is there value in doing that just outside of this project? Like, there's a value in just having an excellent
NX client?
itself.
Yeah. An excellent open source one, yes. I mean, it sounds like there is an excellent one. It's just proprietary. It's proprietary, or it's beer free, but non software libre.
NX is like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, right?
Yes.
And it's always been libraries available, and there started to be a lot of clients, right away because it's freaking awesome. And this is not, it's not like something just, I'm very pessimistic, but I don't think it's that easy. Because lots of people want it, but it doesn't exist.
Okay, so forgetting about the proprietary bit for a minute, do you think we could have a solution, Scott? I mean, forgetting about the philosophical aspects of it. If we were to use, I forgot the name of it now, no machine, would we have a workable solution that we have decided?
I think, yeah.
If no machine open source their software, we'd have a working solution by the end of the cycle. If we implemented something as good as No Machine's proprietary code, we'd have something done by the end of the cycle. The latter thing isn't going to happen with the server team, but I mean, it could be something we ask the desktop team to do, something we contract.
Unity.
Yeah. So, I think we have to either, there's an alternative we don't know about, we haven't discussed in this room, or we have to make a decision on no name.
Yeah.
What do we do with it?
I mean, what I would really like to see, I don't know how much time we have left, or if we can do it in the hallway, but start a session to Stefan's, maybe Stefan can demo it if you have the tools. Start a session to your NX server, remote, run it on No Machine, show us what the usability looks like, and then run it on the free or the Open NX client and see what the difference is.
Yeah. Can be a very good measure.
Yeah. I mean, not that I don't trust Scott, but I don't trust Scott.
And that's why. And something else as well, because EC2 is quite variable when it comes to bandwidth and application and concurrency. I think at different time of the day will be a good idea too.
Well, if the client works, it works, but like it won't reattach. The sound won't necessarily work all that well. It's sometimes.
I think it's about offering an experience.
This is my experience.
Does sound ever work in Pulse Audio?
Some never works, even with the proprietary client.
Right.
Yeah. So
ESD.
It's using ESD. And X4 is going to use
There's
Pulse.
no reason that it wouldn't work.
We dropped ESD support.
Scott, the one thing I disagree with is that if this were like important,
Oh, you can. It works with 2 seconds delay. That's fine.
if this were important to us as a distribution, if we are committed to the desktop, and if desktop in the cloud is something that makes sense, maybe we prove it or we disprove it with this. But I think we could either write a damn good NX. I mean, we employ enough developers. We can rewrite the window manager. I think we could write.
Wait, I have a question. So,
a remote desktop.
So, the focus is like people to try Ubuntu on the desktop before actually installing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what people already running Linux or Windows.
That's running Windows.
Okay, so that's a Windows NX client.
Yes.
So,
So therefore we don't care.
So-
It's proprietary anyway. So we can just say to the
So
customer.
that's-
Is that an acceptable Ubuntu opinion? We're going to throw proprietary software product in front of somebody's face and say connect to Ubuntu. Is that okay? I don't know.
If they're already running Windows, they're probably not going to lose their soul over it.
I'm not talking about their soul.
I agree.
Other end of the soul.
There's a point that Scott said, which we not here really to promote as well, something that is obviously close, and there is a point there. But I think the point that Robbie makes is very valid. Is they're going to be 90% of Windows people.
All going to be Windows.
Yeah.
Or Windows, if we click on
There's
something
no
and
reason to do
say,
this if I
click
go.
install there to launch Ubuntu desktop, the resulting project will
I
be
think it's fine if the
Windows.
long-term goal is to get them to use Ubuntu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, sorry.
Unless you want to develop your own server, I'm fine with that as well.
Then I would.
Is this about people trialing Ubuntu, or there's
Yes.
two sides to it, trialing Ubuntu and then just generic desktop in the cloud?
Right.
I think we're at least a cycle or two, a year or two away from desktop in the cloud. But it's in my head as something that, as our bandwidth improves, as the software improves, it's totally something that I think we're gonna see. We're gonna launch.
Generic desktop in the cloud, I think, we should be doing. But trialing.
We're trying
With
another thing,
the
and
users
it's
at
time.
home.
But another thing is, have you looked at Banguela?
Bangola.
Banguela, yes, it was a very small company that was a bit undercover before the thing. I don't know what happened with them, but it'd be nice to make contacts because they had basically a well-integrated solution of delivering Ubuntu over EC2. And it was just simply enter username, click, boom. It was calling an X behind it without showing the tags and the logos of NX. And it was popping immediately. I had a try on this 8 months ago. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Banguela, it's called. I'll put it in Robbie.
Okay.
I want to show you what's happening with the free client with SynGAP currently.
Yep.
It actually surprisingly works this time, so it still takes faults when the session is over, but other than that, it actually
It's over.
yeah, like programs supporting only, especially when airport is there. So. Yeah, that's what happened last time it finished connecting. So we start the client. Looks like that. So you configure pretty much the same options that you would in the proprietary client. It uses the same configuration file. So that's actually quite useful. And you can connect from here. It's just, yeah, you don't really see what's happening, except if you run it from terminal.
And where is this system physically located?
Germany. It's the Ubuntu web library I'm using as demonstration. So once it's connected, it's actually using the same library as the proprietary client because they are free libraries, so it's going to be just as fast. I mean,
So this is the free
That's
client,
not-
right?
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, the performance isn't going to differ. It's the thing's going to crash or it's not. Like that's the problem.
Right, okay.
So what does this look like when it's a Windows user? Does this even compile for a Windows user? I mean, does it?
it's Qt, so it's supposed to.
Okay.
I never tried it, but
Yeah, that's an important aspect, actually, both sides of Windows.
We are optimizing this for Windows, actually. So this is a very valid point. Finding a great solution for us rather than Ubuntu, rather.
Right. I mean, it's important to get to the desktop and the cloud, but
Sure.
for the Windows user thing, the proprietary one is probably okay. They're already running Windows.
Exactly.
They're already.
it's not too bad.
I feel a bit for what's Scott is saying. Yeah.
What's the video?
No, it's a slideshow.
Okay.
Can you click on the
Stop
smooth
motion.
button, please?
Yeah.
But you have no sound video there, right? So.
But
T-shirt.
I remember us trying like K-Stars, something else.
You have Tetris? What does Tetris look like?
It has some blocks that fall down.
Yeah. What's your top score in Tetris? That's really the question.
Yeah. Oh, so that's so.
So I guess
Oh,
to
the game that doesn't
the
have-
actions we need to add to have.
Oh, that's not it. It's probably why it's small.
We need to look at. We need to make sure we have a Windows client that we would
Right.
suggest, although possibly no machine is acceptable.
Action window must have a Windows client. Parentheses proprietary one may be okay in this case. Might be sufficient. Question mark. We may need to get some guidance from the tech board or the council or something in terms of, is this message okay? This is 3D rendering?
Yeah, it's 3D rendering, but done on a server in Germany and system back.
That's pretty smooth.
Yeah. It's actually quite surprising. Oh, it's starting to actually load some data now.
But that's network connection. I mean, the network connection here is flaky. Everybody who's done
Yeah.
anything over it is aware of that.
Well, I think we got enough to roll with to try and have something, mid-cycle, and, Jerry and others can play with it and say, we want to put this in front of users or we don't.
All right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, its potential to save us a huge amount of money on sending CDs is, it's worth taking the investment. Try to get we can do it.
So Mark asked if anyone's looked at Unity inside of this.
Not going to work.
Not going to work.
Because Unity requires 3D acceleration in complexity.
Okay.
So,
So what about the
it's not going to
Unity,
start.
the Unity and Qt?
Right.
if you have Unity Impute or anything that's going to play nicely with like EFL or whatever library like that, it's going to work probably.
So it should, because you're aiming that for ARM.
Yeah.
So.
Right, yeah, if you can start on ARM board that doesn't have 3D capability, it's supposed to work in NX as well.
Spice offloads GL too, is that right?
No, so that's the thing. That it was in the work to do the offloading of OpenGL app.
Okay.
And I mean, it does work, but only with Unity. Basically, the client needs to send the GL in a specific way. It's not transparent. So it's not like I launch an OpenGL app and OpenGL password now on the other side. For the moment, it's only video rendering, and as been explained, it's across XV. If you do that on Windows client, you're going to have to install a specific driver that does the composite link between the two.
So I think the point here is that if we do a Unity one, it needs to be the Unity one based on.
Yeah.
Where do we want to continue these discussions after?
Well, yeah.
It's like over there now.
I think this is an Ubuntu Cloud discussion. Ubuntu Cloud IRC, Ubuntu Cloud mailing list.
Okay. I'm happy with that.
I think the more people that get involved in something like this, the better.
Agreed.
Cloud is slightly detached from server, only slightly, but slightly detached from server. This is pretty specifically a cloud solution. I think we're going to need closer involvement with the desktop team than the server team has ever had before. If we need to do any work with the tools themselves, we just don't overlap with the server or the desktop team at all in any of the work we do. Foundations, yes. Kernel, yes. Desktop, no.
Okay.
Vert Manager is about the closest we come to working on a desktop package.
So,
yeah.
The two things on that list that are most difficult are the top two. FreeNX and Archive and OpenX and Archive and really into main.
Well, if we want to use the Qt NX I just displayed, it's in the archive already. I used what's in Maverick.
Okay.
So Qt
NX is in the archive. We just need to see if we can
Is there a better free implementation?
Well, but
no, I guess it's a good
that
one.
doesn't matter. Client doesn't matter.
The only issue is the lag of maintenance because as you can see, it never got updated.
Mostly client doesn't matter. We're at that level, right?
Yeah. So getting free NX in the archive is really going to be the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we don't need a client in the archive.
No, because we can use the one we have.
In Ubuntu, no machine try as well, yeah.
Okay, so Qt is already in the archive. This one is perhaps good enough. Done, maybe lower priority. Getting free NX in the archive. I'm going to put already in a PPA. Is it in your PPA?
FreeNX, there is the FreeNX team PPA, which is containing the latest version. If you want one that works, take the one from Havas Linux PPA. That's an older version, but it works. Because the new one is based on a new source code released upstream. And then your source package is a bit weird, as it's really slow to connect. And
Can you put those, since you have that information, can you put those notes in the Gaudi?
We're going to check exactly what's the package list from.
So getting the FreeNX server in the archive, ideally we get them into main, but Scott, is there a hard requirement of having these in main?
For the server, everything in
your image has to
the
be.
Ubuntu image is our distribution mechanism. So everything on our media is in main. I think that's a hard requirement, right?
Even if it's a custom one-off image for demo purposes?
Well, no, we've been doing that for two cycles.
Well, we're not going to offer support behind it that way.
No, I mean
You're not supporting
if we roll this for demo purposes,
If we're not doing,
That's
if we're not
already what we
doing it
have.
for main support and for actual support, then this is done. We did it for 2 years,
okay.
or for a
Currently,
year.
the current image is using the FreeNX PPA.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So
try to work that into
the images from Maverick, the desktop images from Maverick, have a FreeNX server in them. You can launch one and connect to it. But it's not in main, and so it's not an official Ubuntu distribution.
Okay. So get FreeNX into the archive, ideally into main, or into main. into the main archive. Currently in the PPA. Get OpenNX and OpenNX client into the archive. QTX is already in there. Is already in the archive. Create desktop images with FreeNX server. So from main, FreeNX server from main. So that's basically following up on that. Have the image offer.
And are we going to do any customization on that image when the tester lands into it, or is it just going to be brand new into desktop? And I'm thinking maybe a small splash screen or something when it comes into desktop. You know, remember
That's funny because we actually discussed it yesterday in a user session as improvements we should do for the 8.2 Web Live.
Okay.
Like having some kind of wizard saying, hey,
yeah.
when it comes to this, then you can do it.
I'm just thinking that the target is particularly the window user. I mean, the last thing you want to do is to drop them in the desktop where they have to click things. I'm thinking just maybe
So
final
there's
to say, you know,
so there's
you
a
try
trial.
applications.
So we should make like a Clippy animator.
Yeah, not clippy, please.
But the question I guess is that if we are going to use such a thing only for like the demonstration system, we would put
If
this
it's-
if we have one.
If it's a demo, then, and it's launched from AWS trial,
Right.
we just inject that stuff and do
Exactly.
it on first boot, the way we inject
Okay, yeah,
things
yeah.
into
And we'll do the same thing for Ubuntu because we
Yeah.
already have some capability of doing so.
Got the need for desktop. Man.
Yeah. Well, we will utilize it to do that.
Yeah, right. So we've agreed that we must have a Windows client of some kind, ideally an open one. If not, the proprietary one might be more okay and for the Windows world than necessarily for the Ubuntu and Ubuntu world. But this is a hard requirement from, say, Jared in marketing. So we're trying to entice Windows users here. Do we care about a Mac client? No?
I mean, if it's easy, yeah, but it's not a priority.
The question is, what we need to check is if the QTNX client can be built on another architect or another platform.
Right.
Because technically it's Qt, it's supposed to be on the platform.
Okay. And then we would need the Unity Qt build of the desktop to be able to do Unity as a desktop.
I mean, we basically installed Ubuntu desktop. Do you think we need to install Ubuntu-Unity?
And it would automatically detect that it's
If the fallback works properly, it fallbacks to the Qt version. Yeah, sure.
yeah.
But I'm guessing that the desktop version isn't.
Yeah, I don't know what that detection process or if it's different packages
No,
that
but
have to be installed.
what I'm saying, like, if we had to, we just put them both in there and then have some way that we would flip which one was chosen. Oh, actually, the client, it's really weird, the client chooses the command that's launched on their behalf on the other end.
Yeah,
Right.
it does.
Yeah.
But it's running as a user, so yeah. That's because you can start.
Oh, I know, right, but I'm saying.
Because you can start like a terminal or a single application, or that's what it's meant for.
Right, but then in the client config that we would push.
Oh yeah, you can set it.
It just has the option to run Ubuntu Unity, run the.
Currently, I was called etc11 accession, but you could do like etc11 accession, whatever you want or something.
Most of the stuff, I always thought it was straight from their own session.
Yeah.
They have to get own shoebox, like in their default, like what you get in the commercial. Like it runs through a session.
Yeah, but actually when you log in GDM, it starts accession that starts another thing, and that one is accession. So that's why I call etc11 accession, so I get
Right, get whatever it did.
yeah.
So,
All right, I've written your outcome. So all you gotta do is paste it in the wiki page.
oh, we need that.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.